That's the bridge coming from the dumpster site. Other one is on Mount Sorry. There's all Mount Pleasant. The restaurant. That bridge is under the road.
Well, get ready to get spring fixed.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like for us to start the board meeting at this time. I'd like to say I'm very happy to see you all here, and we'll get ready to get started. We'd like to have an invocation by Mr. Emmert.
Would bow your heads. Father, we thank you and praise you just for the opportunity to be here. Your many blessings for bringing us here this evening. We ask now that you be with us, that you'd help us to make wise decisions.
Yes.
Not only for ourselves, but for the whole county. For those involved, we ask that you would just be with us, that you would keep us.
Yes.
Keep us safe to travel back and forth to our homes, and we'll thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Pledge allegiance.
Yes, sir.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, does any member have a conflict of interest? Seeing none, we're going to move on to recognitions.
Actually, we're going to jump ahead to public participation.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
That's fine.
We've got one.
Okay, for public participation, we have Mr. Howard Armstead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Madam Chair. I'm Howard Armstead, 706A Hill Street in Farmville, Virginia. And I came here tonight to thank President Biden for the broadband initiative that has brought broadband internet to the rural areas of Prince Edward County and across the nation. This could be compared, in a small way, to the 1936 Infrastructure Act, the Rural Electrification Act that brought electricity to rural areas with the Roosevelt across the country. So this internet that's being laid in Prince Edward County is happening nationwide to tie in rural areas to the rest of the nation so that people can share the wonders or the lack thereof of the internet. Now, a lot of people think infrastructure is an easy thing. Big infrastructure acts are very difficult to pass. George Bush tried to pass one, he couldn't. Barack Obama tried to pass one in 8 years, he couldn't. With Trump, he had Infrastructure Week. Every week was Infrastructure Week with Trump. He couldn't pass one. But our President Biden, who's a little bit long in the tooth and is retiring, was able to do it. Now, last month I came here and I said we had two unqualified candidates running for president. And I said one was too old and one was, you could shorten it to being, I could say, frankly, dishonest. During the debate that we heard about a little over a month ago, 6 weeks ago, the fact checkers said Biden had lied 4 times. They said Trump had either lied about 41 times or 60 times, depending on who's doing the fact checking. In his most recent news conference from Mar-a-Lago, the different fact checkers said Trump had lied 120 times, 150 times, or 161 times in 90 minutes. So today we only have one unqualified candidate for president. Yes, he's too old, and he comes across as a little bit demented or delusional, but he's unqualified for the following reasons. He's ethically unfit to be president. He's morally unfit to be president. He's criminally unfit to be president. He's emotionally and psychologically unfit to be president. He's intellectually unfit to be president despite the fact that his uncle taught at MIT. He's religiously unfit to be president because nobody should pretend to be a Christian. At some time in your life, you have to go to church. If you go be a Christian, you can't just be prayed over and say, I've got nothing to repent for. And he's patriotically unfit to be president because he praises Putin, Putin, Putin. Every speech he says what a good man Putin is. And he blames America and Biden for invading the Ukraine when I think everybody knows Putin did it. So we don't need a con man, a criminal. We don't need chaos in this country. We don't need an insurrection. What we need is good government. And that's what we provide here. You folks provide here in Prince Edward County good government. And I want to thank you for doing that. And I want to thank you for letting me have my little piece to say. God bless you and have a good evening.
There's no one else signed up for public participation, but is there someone in the audience who cares to speak? Thank you. Board of Supervisors, comments.
Hey, just thank each and everyone for being here this evening. We appreciate the fact that you're here.
Thank you for being here. We ask that you continue to be supportive.
Yeah, I appreciate your engagement, for being here and holding us accountable and voicing your concerns and bringing issues to our attention. That's how things get done, and we look forward to continue to serving you. So thank you.
Mighty nice y'all take the time to come see us, be involved, so thank you for coming. Come next month too.
Thank you. We're talking among ourselves and looking at the young athletes running all over the yard that we redid not too long ago. We're in awe of their energy level and harking back to our childhood when we think about decisions we make impact everybody, especially the youngest generation. But it's great to have you all here and great to honor them tonight for their accomplishments.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our August meeting. Thank you for your attendance.
I'm glad to see you all here tonight, and congratulations to the boys and girls, how well they did in the sports. I wish them well in all they do from this day on. They really, really deserve it. Thank you.
Again, I'd like to say thank you. I'd also like to thank Mr. Doug Stanley for given us a meeting with the Federal Reserve this morning. That was quite interesting to me. First time I've ever been in that meeting. And I also like to thank our town manager for being there as well. So it was interesting, educational, and again, I'd like to say thank God that we have a good leader in our county administrator. Thank you. Okay, next is our consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to be approved as presented. If there are no,
Second.
It has been motioned and second. Mr. Emmert,
yes.
Mr. Townsend,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Dr. Pride,
Yes.
Mr. Gillum.
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes. Okay, we have some business partner updates, and there is a typo on item number 9. Instead of community, it's business partner update. So at this time, we will ask Mr. Randy Myers, President of Operations of Triborough Shelvin and Petition, to come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Randy Myers, and I'm President of Operations and COO of Triborough Shelving. I would like to thank the Economic Development Department and the Board of Supervisors for inviting us here tonight and to spotlight our business. I am joined by Triborough Shelving CEO President Tony DeMeo and Triborough Rack President John DeMeo. Mr. Fred DeMeo purchased Triborough almost 53 years ago in Brooklyn, New York. Fred operated from a small facility and employed an estimated 4 people at that point in time. Fred quickly grew out of the business and expanded to another facility in 1976, and in the late 1980s, Fred moved the majority of the manufacturing to Dillwyn, Virginia. Dillwyn was where he and Tony had purchased a farm, and it was always Fred's passion, to be a farmer, and that he always said that was his hobby, was farming. But he really loved his cows, and he loved Triborough and manufacturing as well. As Fred continued to expand the Dillwyn business, he was looking for opportunities to add on to the existing facility or build a new building. He worked with the Department of Economic Development out of Richmond, who recommended Prince Edward County for a new site, as Buckingham County was not offering any incentives for any types of infrastructure at that point in time. So he came to Prince Edward County. They offered him the land to build a facility and a credit on tool tax and machinery. And then Fred also was able to acquire a governor's grant from George Allen that also helped to facilitate, with the building of the new facility. Fred and Tony accepted Prince Edward's offer and built the headquarters of Triborough Shelving in the late 1990s. Triborough was the first company to build in the industrial park, which provided credibility to the industrial zone that they were trying to establish. Fred continued to expand the business and moved all the manufacturing to Virginia from Brooklyn, New York in 2000. Fred's son, John DeMeo, was very interested in the pallet rack industry and had been selling product in New York for many years. Fred, Tony, and John decided to open a new venture in 2011 and built state-of-the-art manufacturing facility to manufacture pallet rack. Today, we are Farmville's best-kept secret, as many still aren't aware that we're in behind Lowe's. I can't tell you how many people that we speak with or, that actually come in and said, we didn't know you were back here. And after almost 26 years, it's kind of a surprise to us, but, we like to get the word out as best as humanly possible. But as of today, Triborough employs around 85 people across our 3 divisions, and we are open to the public. So if anybody is looking for shelving or pallet rack, feel free to stop in. We'll be more than we're happy to help you with any of your needs or anything that you may desire. I'd like to again, thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to go back to recognitions.
Madam Chair and members of the board, as you know, recognitions is an opportunity for the Board of Supervisors to recognize achievements in our community, like we did this evening with the baseball team and the softball team on the courthouse lawn, with a focus on the accomplishments of students, employees, and our citizen volunteers who serve the County of Prince Edward. This month, we are very pleased to announce our Employee of the Month is Cleveland Love. Mr. Love is a Rice Convenience Site worker, and he was nominated as Employee of the Month by a Prince Edward County citizen, Marshall Womack, who we had hoped might be able to join us this evening, but we were not able to get in touch with him. Mr. Womack contacted me personally twice about nominating Mr. Love for this award. And his comments, Mr. Womack's comments, were that Mr. Love is helpful, kind, and courteous. No matter the weather, he is always ready with a smile to be of assistance to our citizens. He said to please thank Mr. Love for all of his hard work and dedication, and that he is an upstanding frontline employee with our community and appreciated beyond measure. So we congratulate Cleveland Love, August Employee of the Month.
Would you rather be on the
Congratulations.
Coming out, unfortunately, I love all y'all, I love the work I do. Nice people, nice town, for the most part, stop our details, rest of my life.
All right, congratulations.
Do it.
That for a contract.
We would also like to take the opportunity to congratulate James Taylor on his retirement from the Prince Edward County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Taylor has been with the county since July of 2019. He was the county's very first Employee of the Month, recognized in May of 22 for his unflappable management of courthouse security during the height of COVID, and has been nominated for Employee of the Month multiple times since for being a team player, positive role model, and treating everybody with dignity and respect. Deputy Taylor has been an asset to Prince Edward County and will be truly missed.
You can't retire too young. Yeah, that tail.
All you gotta do is sit on, stay around.
You come back part-time.
Good, good.
Congratulations, Taylor.
Thank everyone.
Hey,
Thank you.
Next, we'll have our community partner updates. We're starting with Mr. C. Scott Davis, Farmville Town Manager.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Thank you for having me again. I can't read without these, might as well put them on. I don't have many updates this evening, just want to give you a few things that, that do matter to the county as much as it does to the town. One is, as you've probably heard from our last meeting or seen from the newspaper, I think was today, there is a new restaurant coming to town at the former location of where the Ken's Car Coop was. And so hopefully they will be getting their building permits soon and start construction at that location. It has not, from the plans, it was a retail, it was a fast food type restaurant, if you will. So they still have not acknowledged who they are to us directly yet. Hopefully that'll come soon. Another update is about two different things that are very important to most people, and that's our water plant and our wastewater treatment plant. The water plant, we have spent about $1.5 million in upgrades using ARPA funds. This is from a new elevator, oxidation tank, potassium permanganate tank, replacement of valves, chemical tank and feeder, and a 300 kilowatt generator for that facility. Pretty soon, it's going to be almost a brand-new water plant, except it'll be in a 1970s building. But it's a good building. We just got to we just have to upgrade everything else. The wastewater treatment plant officially opened in 1994, and so you think about it, you're like, it doesn't seem that long ago, but it's been 30 years. At the time, it was the most modern plant that could be built at that time. And with anything else, over time, it changes. And so now we're looking at how do we make it safer for our employees, at the same time also environmentally friendly for what we're putting back into the river after we've treated that water. And in doing that, the engineers that we're working with, we're going to go from chlorine gas to a liquid. At the same time, chlorine is still not, even in a liquid form, is still can be dangerous for employees. And they said, have you looked at what a lot of wastewater treatment plants are going to, and that is UV lighting disinfectant. And it reduces sulfur dioxide in your chlorine from having to treat wastewater. And so we are looking at that. That estimated, in doing that, we would also get rid of a sand filter, and it goes to a disc cloth filtering system. The good part is that a lot of the structure that's there will be reusable for these other methods. The bad part is it's about $2.5 to $3.5 million that we will be using. Hopefully, the council will agree to that tomorrow night. We'll see of using some additional ARPA funds. And at that point, it's about a 2-year process. And it'll upgrade our plant, but also make it a lot safer for our employees and the environment in general. The other thing is, obviously, a town our age has some new water lines, sewer lines, and has some old ones. And so we're working with Hurt and Profit. We're still waiting for them to finish their study on providing us with an asset management plan for our infrastructure so that we can better manage when we are looking at long-term replacement of these in order to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. And so we're hoping to have that sometime in December. But those are the major points I wanted to bring to your attention this evening, but I'm open for any questions or comments.
Looks like your water park is real popular these days.
It is, it is. We had, I think, some requests to keep it past Labor Day, but, you know, it's kind of like a pool. You're operating from Memorial Day to Labor Day, so. It has been a great new addition for recreational aspects for the community. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Have a
Scott.
good evening.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Barbara Johnson, Superintendent of Prince Edward County Schools.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Stanley, members of the board. Thank you very much for allowing me to share a few updates, brief updates with you this evening. First of all, as many of you know, last Monday was opening day for us. It was a spectacular day. Thank you all who were able to come out and greet our middle school students. That is really a big event for them. Sometimes students pretend like they don't really care, particularly at middle school level, but they look forward to that every year. So thank you so much for coming out to greet our students. As you know, our week was cut short last week because of the weather. We will not have our final numbers. Our numbers will not settle down around enrollment until after Labor Day. So I will be back to share where our enrollment lands at that point. As far as vacancies this year, we have 2 counselor vacancies, 2 reading specialist vacancies, and 2 special education vacancies. All of our core content areas are filled, which is excellent. Again, counselors have been really difficult to find, so if you know anyone who is in counseling, please let us know. At this point, we are entertaining part-time people as well as working with or about to work with a private agency for counselors. That is absolutely critical. We don't have our final test scores back, but I can say this, that I'm confident that our elementary school did very well. I'm confident that our high school made gains. Our middle school, however, did not make gains. At least I don't expect that they made gains in anything except attendance. Across the board, we made improvements around attendance. That was a focus last year. It will continue to be a focus this year. I want to thank you, and I want to thank our community publicly for that challenge, because that's not something that the school system can address on its own. So our attendance numbers definitely improved. Our chronic absenteeism numbers went down. And then finally, I'd like to share a construction update. Construction is moving along. We are waiting now for the trailers to be placed on our, what used to be our blacktop play area. That's where they will be placed. I suspect that the weather has put them a little behind, but we are still expecting to move our 3rd and 4th graders into those trailers October 14th through 16th. That is the school system's spring break. Some ask, why did we start so early this year? We started early because the calendar committee wanted to include a fall, did I say spring break? Fall break, my apologies, fall break. Our fall break is October 14th through 16th, and we wanted to include a fall break this year in our calendar. So those are the main updates that I have for you, and I too am open for questions. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Dr. Johnson.
Good evening, Dr.
Dr.
Brown.
Johnson, what efforts are being made with the school system relevant to Governor Youngkin's requesting of the cell phone requirement and so forth? I know you know
We
what
are,
I'm talking
yes,
about.
yes, ma'am, I do. We right now are waiting for guidance from the Virginia Department of Ed. Last Friday, Friday before last, there was a meeting for anyone in Region 8, which includes Prince Edward, at SVCC. There was an in-person meeting with the state superintendent. There was also a call-in meeting, I believe it was last week, for anyone in Virginia who wanted to participate and hear what was going on. Before we, as a division, can really move, we are waiting for guidance from Virginia Department of Ed. And that guidance is expected to come no later than September 15th. So implementation is expected the 1st of January 2025. So we are looking forward to that guidance. As it stands now, Prince Edward's cell phone policy, which has been it's been in place for several years, but over the last few years, our high school students may use their cell phones in the mornings, on the bus, and at breakfast. They may use them at lunch, and they may use them when they hit the bus landing in the afternoon. Our middle school students may not use their cell phones at all throughout the day. Again, they may use them in the morning on the bus and in the evenings on the bus. And our elementary school students don't have cell phones. That's currently our policy. So depending upon what the guidance looks like, we will make adjustments as appropriate.
Thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
I have a question. Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
attendance was a big emphasis of yours last year.
Absolutely.
And attendance, like you said, increased for the middle school last year.
It increased across the board, yes.
Oh, yes, my question is focused to the middle school. If attendance increased, there was less chronic absenteeism, why did not test scores correlate to that?
Because of instruction, general instruction. The instruction, it is my belief, and again, we are speculating because I don't have the text scores, but I'm pretty confident in my response. We need to make sure that everyone in all of our schools focuses on the standards, understands the standards, and teaches the standards. And that did not happen across the board.
Why do you think that is?
I think that there are several different reasons. I think some people like to teach certain things and are accustomed to teaching them the way they've always taught them. I think some people don't really understand the standards at the level that they need to understand them. Standards are not something, Virginia standards are not something that is taught at the K-12 level to the extent that we need for implementation. So we have to go through that every year with seasoned and/or new teachers. It doesn't matter because standards are also changing. Last year, math standards changed, literacy standards changed. So with standards changing, everyone does not keep up with their standards as well as they should. So to be honest, that is, the question is, the children came, so what happened? What happened then is really the quality of instruction was not at the cognitive level it needed to be, and it was not as direct as it needed to be. Direct instruction is really important. Education went through a phase where we did whole language and we expected the children to do a lot of the work themselves, neglecting the actual direct instruction. And so we're returning to that. We also have factored into the schedule at all levels a remediation and enrichment period, very specific, so that if you are not where you should be in your reading and mathematics, then we have a period that it's not an extended period. It's not like a 90-minute block, but there is a period in the day where you can get assistance, and that's on all levels for reading and mathematics. It's also a period that can be used for enrichment for those children who need additional supports just to move forward faster, because we can't neglect that part of our population as well. Our population spans between those who are very gifted and those who are at a life skills level.
So can you kind of outline your administration's plan to help us reach those standards this year?
Yes, that is through professional development, and we have hired a consultant this year who works every week with our administration, because that's part of it as well. The administrators need to understand exactly what they're looking for when they go into classes. They need to give quality feedback to those folks. It's not good enough, and I know we've all worked at jobs where someone has said, "You're doing a good job." Well, that's great, but that doesn't make you better at your job. So we are interested in making sure that we give very specific feedback around what is working, very specific feedback around what is not working, and we're giving more frequent assessments. So we have what is considered HQI, high-quality instructional materials. That's the new VDOE term. But we do have quality textbooks, quality instructional materials. We need to make sure that everyone is using those quality instructional materials. So I am, at my level, at the division level, also monitoring utilization reports. You know, how often are you giving assessments? Are they the right assessments? Because we do have all of these wonderful materials.
So you're thinking that the teaching materials and/or methods that were used were out of date?
No, the materials weren't necessarily out of date, weren't necessarily used to fidelity. So that there's a difference. We've had high-quality instructional materials because we made sure that we purchased materials based when standards changed. But as far as instruction, I don't want to say out of date. I'm just simply saying people have different ways of teaching, and they're not always aligned with the standards.
Thank you.
So Dr. Johnson, in reference to Harrison's question, and I'm interested at, well, at what point during the instructional period was this addressed? Right before the administration of the SOLs, midway or whatever? When did you know that that instruction wasn't taking place in the means that it should have?
We have been working on instruction all year long, all last year, every year we work on instruction. We made changes, we made shifts mid-year with some of the academic teams. I'm speaking specifically about the middle school now. We made course adjustments, if you will, probably mid-year, with the hopes that we have the spring semester to really boost some differences. We changed how we met. So when I say met, the PLCs, professional learning communities, grade level meetings, whatever one would want to call them. We changed how we conducted those. So we made mid-year corrections. They simply were not enough. At least my expectation is that they were not enough.
And just one additional question. I know that the high school lost one of its assistant principals, and I'm hearing that one of the former administrators at the middle school a while, he's at the high school now. What role is he playing? Is Mr. Reverend Dr. Calvin Gray at the high school?
He is merely a substitute, an administrative substitute, a
So
support.
an administrative sub?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is not our intention necessarily to fill that position at this point.
That's what I thought.
It is not necessarily. However, when you are down counselors and now to lose an administrator, we want to make sure that we have supports in the school.
The needs of the students are met.
Absolutely. So we've hired someone part-time to work at, in the counseling department. We've offered additional stipends to the support personnel that's already there that has taken on additional work. And we wanted to make sure that we had enough supports. Because if you lose someone, when you lose key personnel or key positions, you have to figure out other ways to make sure students have support.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got one question, Doc.
Yes,
Do
sir.
you have a target, or what do you anticipate all schools will be accredited?
I believe Mr. Jones asked that question the last time I was here. So I'm going to
I mean, in your own.
I'm going to change my response. My response was then that the elementary school I was not worried about, that the middle school would be next, and that it would probably take two years for the middle school, and that the high school I simply was not sure. I'm going to change that to the elementary school I'm still not worried about. The high school, really good possibility for this year. We've hit major key indicators. The middle school, I have to just wait and see. And I say wait and see because I need to understand where we're going to be this year. Now, when I was here last, I also said, and I still stand by the offer, that the state is changing its accreditation system. So this year, how we measure schools will be the same as how we measured them, well, 24, 25 will be the same as how we measured them 23, 24. But running concurrently with that will be the new system that is now in place, because there was such an uproar around chronic absenteeism and a few other indicators around accreditation. So for instance, last year, our elementary school scored really well. And, well, I get my years mixed up, 23, 24, no, the year before. You remember, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But they were not technically accredited because of chronic absenteeism. Well, we were not the only school where that happened. And as you acknowledged and we acknowledge, that chronic absenteeism is not something that a school can manage solely by itself. So with that and with some other issues around the accreditation system, VDOE has changed the system. That has not been finalized yet, and more information is still being put out there around the system. But this is the year that VDOE will run both systems together. So whereas this year, we may be accredited across the board with the old system, next year we may not be. Or this year, I won't put that in the atmosphere if we weren't accredited, but the new system may have us accredited. So it just depends, because they're talking about accreditation versus accountability. Wait a minute, is it accountability? Accountability and accreditation, yes.
Are there other factors that you look to? Because when you talk to the general public, they're less concerned about what the specific state requirements are for a given year. When they just generally assess a school system and you get a variety of responses, if you poll Prince Edward County citizens, what are some other factors that you look to as you're assessing the quality of where things are at with our school
With
district?
schools?
Yes.
So I'm looking at several things, and some of them are things that would typically be looked at by any division, not just Prince Edward. So I'm looking at our graduation rate. Our graduation rate has gone up, or the expectation is that it will go up. I look at graduation rate. I look at the amounts of money garnered in scholarships and supports, because that's another general indicator. I look at our enrollment numbers, of course, but in this particular instance, our enrollment numbers, because of what's happening in the region, aren't really a good assessment of that necessarily. Another would be turnover, which has been an ongoing conversation for well over a decade in Prince Edward. Again, we are concerned about Prince Edward, but I am here to tell you what is happening Region 8, specifically South, Southwest, where turnover rates are pretty high. So this, what we have today with vacancies are excellent. I might also look at the literacy rate. You know, are our children reading on grade level by the time they're in third grade? That's a really big deal.
And how do you feel that we do on that metric?
I think we're getting much better with that. I think our elementary school over the last few years our elementary school has done an exceptional job of sending strong candidates, stronger students to the middle school. Our biggest issue right now is figuring out what happens, aside from what happens just developmentally, because there are developmental things that happen. But aside from that, what's happening with instruction at that level? It is that transition that is most critical. And it is that transition that, well over a decade, that's where we lose children, primarily. So we'll have a lot, if you notice, we have an elementary school that has, say, 800 children. But by the time we get to middle school, we're at like 500, 550. And that has been historical. I mean, we have the data to prove that for decades, we lose our children in middle school. And so the question continues to be the why. Initially, when I first came, I thought, okay, maybe it's just because parents are just afraid of middle school, and so they do something different. But there's a huge gap in our enrollment in what you would think in a district that only has 3 schools, that they would be able to maintain. We maintain from middle to high. We don't maintain from elementary to middle.
Well, I don't imagine that 25% of our students are dropping out as they enter 5th grade.
Oh, absolutely not.
So they're finding different options.
Absolutely.
Are we polling parents are we doing, you know, in the private industry, it would be exit polling for, you know, a former employee. Do we provide an opportunity for parents who are leaving Prince Edward County to voice their input?
No. We do not have when someone leaves, they simply leave, and sometimes we know because a parent or another school division has requested records. Sometimes that's how we find out. So parents don't typically come and tell us that they're leaving. They just enroll their children in somewhere else, or they choose to homeschool or private school or move out of state or whatever the case may be. It varies.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now we'll have Dr. Maria Allman from Piedmont District Health Director, please.
Hi, Madam Chair, Mr. Stanley, members of the board. Thank you for inviting me here to present again. Priorities for the district this upcoming year are really long-term stability and building up our infrastructure to support what has become expanded programming for the health department since COVID, particularly in the area of communications and community outreach and engagement. We've really worked to make this a bi-directional piece from the community to us and back down to the community. In the next month, we will be seeing the results from the community health assessment that we do every 3 years with Centra Healthcare, and we expect really expect those priorities to be in line with what we have seen every 3 years since we started these community health assessments. Number one being access to care, both primary care and mental health care. Number two, transportation. Number three, housing. Number four, food insecurity. These priorities have really not varied, and one could consider us to be dragged down and not solving these issues, but I think that they are challenging issues that we have continued to make progress on. And one of the wonderful things that we have seen out of COVID is the community partnerships that have developed and the I think the improvement of transparency of what we are actually doing on the ground. And one of our commitments in this next year is to really create a website that shows the steps that we are taking to address each of these issues as a community, not only as a health department, but who's responsible and the timeline for when those things will happen. And more to come on all of those pieces. The health department continues to expand in WIC, which is Women, Infant, Children. It's a nutritional assistance program that is federally administered, federally supported, administered locally through the health departments. In August of 2023, that went back to in-person after being out for the duration of the pandemic. So they were not actually doing in-person, they were all virtual appointments. We actually saw a drop in that participation as soon as we came back into the clinics. Obviously, there are a lot of barriers to that. Women with many children have a hard time making appointments, and there are rigorous appointments that they need to make to have their child weighed, to get certain blood tests. But we are working to make that as easy as possible. The federal guidelines have loosened a little bit, and we're slowly seeing an influx back of those women, infant, and children. We're hoping to have just increased outreach and potentially some partnerships with Longwood to really look at those areas that are sticking points for some of those participants in using their benefits. There have been a couple of, just on the disease front, you know, we do a surveillance of many different diseases, things that we are seeing increases in across the state. We continue to have a meningococcal outbreak that has just been long-standing. Pertussis cases have also been on the rise, for which pediatricians have some awareness. Those are both vaccine-preventable illnesses. So we continue to really focus on getting those vaccines into kids. I've been worked in partnership with our schools to make sure that children are vaccine ready and ready to enter school on day one. They are actually not allowed to continue into the school without a plan for those vaccines. So it's really important to get those vaccines, and we worked all summer to do that. Environmental health, we have been lucky enough to have a bilingual person who does our restaurant inspections, as well as some of the other campsites and hotels. We are steady in our septic and well in Prince Edward. Those concerns continue to increase in number, so our business is really booming, unfortunately. And with flooding and other concerns, septic systems obviously become something about which we worry a great deal and have to come back to the clients for assistance with. Virginia Tech has been stellar in offering well water testing after those kind of events. Also locally, environmental health lead cases continue to increase in children. So that's something that we work on. That's a very, very big sticking point for getting lead remediation in homes. When we do find high lead levels in children, oftentimes they're pitted against sort of whether they can stay in homes, particularly rental homes, for which they don't have full responsibility, or even unable to manage financially, and there are very few interventions for that. But we work with them to find it. Tick-borne illnesses are also increasing, and other respiratory illnesses as we come together. But the waterworks has been really stellar in the town of Farmville. We now have, for the first time in our central region, we are doing sentinel monitoring of our water for influenza and COVID. So regardless of testing, we can kind of see where those levels fluctuate regardless, and it just gives us a ready system in case any other respiratory illnesses or other illnesses come in, where we're not dependent upon doctors to test. We can look in the wastewater. And I think that really is it. We were also recently affected by the flooding because we have a storage unit in the flood zone, which is an unfortunate place to have a unit. But we're grateful to our community partners and Longwood and our fire department, which really helped us clean our stuff off and store it in the interim. And we will be setting our budget for the coming year. We have a new electronic health record system that will be coming down the pipeline by the end of the year, which will help with billing and other communications. That's a statewide initiative through ARPA. So coming into the 22nd century, eventually, it'll be next year and the coming years. Okay, thank you. Oh, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to change the program just a little bit. We're going to have our economic development update by Mrs. Chelsea White.
Good evening. I just want to make sure before I get started, do you all have this?
It's on page 170, it's on the table back.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'll just mention some highlights from my report. We've got lots of exciting and great things happening in the Economic Development and Tourism Department. I recently submitted the 2023 Enterprise Zone Annual Report. And so the data in the report included public and private investment figures, marketing efforts, and information on jobs created and investment figures. And this data, also businesses that opened and closed in the Enterprise Zone during the calendar year. This report was provided to DHCD to be included in their Enterprise Zone Annual Report to the General Assembly. Regarding tourism, we met with Fraser Associates in the town of Farmville recently to begin coordinating our respective signage programs, as well as the end of phase 1 of our wayfinding signage project. And so right after that meeting, we then had a meeting called the basically wayfinding signage coordinating kickoff meeting with VDOT at the end of July. And that meeting was where I got to present the signage design concepts and project scope to VDOT. VDOT staff then reviewed the revised concept plans that we also submitted and explained program requirements and long-term maintenance responsibilities for the program. And so that, with that meeting, we have completed phase 1 of the project. So now we're officially in phase 2. And Fraser Associates, as I mentioned, is our contractor. So the first step of phase 2 is completing the programming and construction intent documents for new gateway signs, which are the signs that you see that people see when they first enter the county. So it'll be really nice to have some new inviting signs coming up down the pike. Next, we have new visitor center merchandise that is available in the gift shop that we're pretty excited about. These new items feature our new tourism logo and include items for visitors of all ages. We were happy to donate some of those items to the Girls Dixie League softball team this summer to represent the county at the World Series in Louisiana. So that was exciting. Our new tourism website launched at the end of July, and so that website features many wedding-related businesses, including venues, caterers, florists, boutiques, hotels, salons, and more. Our website also features furthers the promotion of the county as a wedding destination. So we like to consider ourselves as a one-stop shop if you want to have your forever start in Prince Edward County. And so that website can be accessed at www.exploreprincedwardva.com. The airing of the commercial for the Forever Starts in Prince Edward County campaign wrapped at the end of July. That was the commercial that I was happy to present last time when I came in June. So now we have paid Facebook ads that are going out now. And that's all coming from our tourism Facebook page, which is Explore Prince Edward VA. And that, of course, the ads also direct people to the new website. The content for our new Virginia 250 exhibit is being finalized as well. And so the next phase of this project will be starting up soon, where we will be removing the High Bridge exhibit that's currently there at the Visitor Center and painting the 2 exhibit rooms to prep it for the new installation. So that concludes my report. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll do Highway Matters. Mr. Scott Frederick.
Good evening, Madam Chair, County Administrator, and Board. Thank you for having me. Start off tonight's update with speaking about the storm damage caused by Hurricane Debbie and her, I guess, aftermath. The biggest damage that we had, I think, occurred on Route 657, Sulphur Springs. A culvert was washed out. I'd say on Saturday, we had a contractor beginning to mobilize and head our way. C.H. White's going to be doing the repair work to the culvert, and then after that, we'll be working to build the road back and reinstall guardrail. So sometimes you look at it and you say, oh, the culvert really wasn't damaged, it just needs to be backfilled. But there's a lot of dead men in that head wall design that need to be retensioned and backfill it and lift. So the repair of the culvert should be a couple weeks, and then building the road back probably a couple weeks and putting the guardrail back. We're saying we'll be done in 2 months, I guess is what I'm trying to tell you. So maybe I'll be able to update you with a sooner deadline next month, but we got a lot of work to do there. 608 and 609 were both also lingering due to the height of the Appomattox River. 608 opened back up today where you cross into Buckingham County. 609, I think there was some damage to the railing in one little spot in the bridge deck that they need to repair. And they're still working to get a bunch of debris out from underneath the bridge on 609. So I think we have a few more days until we open that one back up. But that's our only, 657 and 609 are the only 2 routes that are considered closed in the county right now. So we've done a lot of machining on gravel roads and just removing tree debris throughout the county. We had the shoulder on New Bethel, 634, got washed out again in that curve in the bottom. We got that put back. But still, I'd say VDOT is our best when storms like that occur. We jump to action and get things repaired as quickly as we can. Me and County Administrator rode through the county on Friday, just a little, I guess, dialogue about the storm, but we stopped out at 609. The water was way up over the bridge, but you could see where it had been going down. And I thought, oh, we're doing good. You know, and the Appomattox River was predicted to crest at 16.5 feet. And I think about the time I left work Friday night, it seemed like it was still down or maybe stable. And So we had somebody check in Farmville at 9 PM. The river hadn't really rose too great at that point, and so I think, Main Street's gonna be okay. And then I woke up Saturday morning and it had crossed the road, so sometimes it's hard to predict. The NOAA website showed it cresting at 16.5 feet. It actually almost got to 22 feet. I think it was like 21.9 something feet. So just a very interesting way, and Sarah had sent me some rainfall data. Just the western side of the county got like 6 to 10 inches of rain, depending on where you were. So it's a lot of rain, but great response to it. We also rode on Friday when we were together out on 604, the shoulder widening project that we did, Dr. Pratt, that's in your area. I submitted that about a year ago for some special funding that came up for high-risk rural roads is what it was called, and it was selected, and that's how that worked from 665 to Route 730, Darlington Heights Road to School Road was funded, and I'm going to submit the portion that we didn't get done this year again, and hopefully we can get that next year. And if it's not selected, then we'll keep chipping away at it with our regular funding through the safety money. We're currently getting a lot of grass complaints. I've talked to a few of you guys about it. After we came out of the drought, it seemed like the grass was ready to grow, but now we're getting rain, and the Johnson grass especially has jumped up. So we're actually trying to get through the secondaries right now and do what we call a safety cut, where you just kind of make one pass and get everything cut back for sight distance in the straightaways and everything. And then at intersections, we'll cut it back so there's intersection sight distance. So we're definitely well aware of how quickly the grass is growing. And then there's a new manager of transportation at the Prince Edward County Schools named Dante Smithson. I've been working with him ever since school came back in, trying to get tree limbs cut back for the school buses. So we've got several routes done. I think CC Camp Road was one that we got done today. We're also working to start up our rural rustic program again. It looks like we've got enough funding. We're going to be working on Rice Creek Junction Canal and probably Quail Crossing. We're going to start those and get them going, and hopefully get them shot before the weather gets cold this fall, get the surfaces put down. If not, we'll have to finish them up in the spring, but we're really hoping to get done before about October on those 3 routes. So that's really all I came prepared to update on tonight, but I can certainly take questions, comments, or concerns from the board.
I got a list.
Oh, I should have said, on Friday, we rode through Singleton, and that one that you called me about where the water jumped out of the ditch. They had clipped it back a little bit, but that ditch still needs more work.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they took a grader and a broom and swept the stone back out. But I really emphasize that needs to be done before winter time, because that water, if it comes back across the road, it's gonna be ice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And the Johnson grass you were talking about, there was an accident on Morris Creek. A lady pulled out of her driveway and the Johnson grass had grown and fell over and she couldn't see, and caused an accident there. So, will they do any spraying to kill some of that and keep it back anymore? They used to years ago.
Yeah, they still do some. We have to have like a location and submit it to the district roadside crew. They'll get it sprayed if we submit it. So that Morris Creek's one that we could look at doing.
Location means just about every road.
I know, that's the thing. It's so widespread. It's,
Do y'all, when you do a job somewhere out, do you leave the equipment there if you don't finish, or do they drive it back and forth? The reason I asked, it's been going up and down Five Forks.
we've been making an effort to bring stuff back to the light at night, or leave it somewhere that's well lit, or if possible, in a fenced lot. We've had more theft lately than we have in the past. Batteries, and I mean, if you live parked on the side of the road somewhere, we've had people put dirt and sand in our fuel tanks. It's just gotten bad lately. So that's why you see stuff deadheading. We're not going to leave it where it's vulnerable anymore. So.
You're welcome to leave it at the church if you need to.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott just made a comment, the phones have not been working, cell or landline, just back and forth, and that's why I haven't been able to get in contact with. But would you document September 19th? September 19th, it's a Thursday night. That's my next town hall meeting, and I would like for you to be there or a representative.
Yes, ma'am.
September 19th, 6 o'clock,
Okay.
Crawley Farm, Hampton City College.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for letting me
Thank
know.
you.
Anything?
I have one, I think I mentioned this to Sarah last month, but 626 Prospect Road, right there close to the village. Had a couple families talking about speeding, and one thing they thought might be an issue was that maybe the branches had kind of grown past the speed limit sign.
Okay.
So I don't know if we need to trim some branches, if we need to look at maybe getting some like flashing yellow.
So if you turn
lights.
off 460 to head towards High Bridge, that the,
Yeah, kind of back behind Trinity Church,
okay.
that stretch in there.
Is it right up, right where you come off, there was a sign that had some shrubbery of some sort growing. I think we.
Yeah, I haven't
trimmed
been
that
through there very much,
Yeah.
but kind of back behind Trinity Church specifically.
Yeah, and then I also noticed, I think Sarah brought that to our attention, but we,
saw a picture that y'all had cut back around the speed limit sign.
yes, ma'am.
Now, maybe it's rained and it's probably turned back.
It may have,
But you had done the trimming.
yeah.
Somebody sent me a picture.
And then the other thing we noticed when we were looking at that is that there's no end, like 35 or, I forget whether it's 25 or 35, but you just kind of never really realize that you come out of that speed zone. So we're going to put an end sign there, and then after that, it will be back to 55.
Okay.
And then the other way, we're going to make a couple changes to the signage coming into the village.
That would be great. Maybe like a slow children at play, because there's a lot of families that live.
Yeah, I think it'll probably just be like 35 ahead and then 35, whatever it is, because it's not signed per standards right now, so we got to get that fixed.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And now we'll have Ms. Justine Young, the CEO of Piedmont Senior Resources.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you so much for having me tonight. PSR is my favorite subject, as most of you probably already know. Love the agency and love what we do. So I just love to be able to give you a little update. One of the most exciting things, in my opinion, this year was we went to the U.S. Aging Conference in Tampa. I knew we were getting a national award, but they kept it a surprise. PSR ended up getting third place in the nation for Innovation Awards. And I want to tell you just what that was and how meaningful it is. Innovation awards have to be something that can be replicated by any other agency throughout the United States. It has to be affordable, replicatable, just very simple. So what we found, many of our clients, when we get to their homes, they cannot hear us. They cannot hear the knock on the door. They can't hear us. They can't hear fire marshal if he comes. They can't hear, the postmaster. They can't hear anybody. So, and we couldn't leave food, we cannot leave food that we deliver outside the door. We have to have someone answer the door to take the meals for our home delivered meals. And it was becoming such a major problem, we were searching for a solution. So the solution was very inexpensive doorbells that we literally can stick on the door jamb there at the front door with 2 units that plug in the house with adjustable sound, so we can turn them up as loud as they need to be for that client. And they can put them in the rooms where they typically sit, so they will hear when someone knocks or comes to the door and rings the doorbell. So I think they're costing us about $50. The beauty of it is that our nutrition drivers can stick them up, our home aides can stick them up, anybody that's going to the home can put them up for that client. So it just made it a super wonderful program. And again, now anyone that comes to their door can ring the doorbell and they will know someone is at their door. It has been so popular that our drivers and volunteers have been purchasing them for their family members. So it's just really been a wonderful program. A lot of times, especially if it's a rental house, you know, they can't just go and they can't afford to put in a system and the wiring and all of that. But for anyone, we can put these on the door because they can easily be removed and unplugged from the house. So that was really exciting to be on that national stage and get that award. And then I also want to let you know that I am president-elect for the SE4A, which is the Southeastern Area Agencies on Aging, 13-state organization for all of the area agencies on aging, from Virginia to Florida and over into Alabama, Mississippi. So that's pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. And I say that to let you know again that we are influencing policy on a national level, even though we are one of the smaller agencies. Our budget, around $3.5 million. We're in there with agencies whose budgets are $50 million, $75 million, and more. So we're very small, but we've been very strong, I'll put it that way. I also want to let you know that, for instance, locally, Jamie Anderson, who is our manager for Homemaker Services, is president of the local triad. And I believe we have the Attorney General coming to speak on Thursday at our event. So if anybody would like to attend that, good opportunity to see the Attorney General and hear him. And so we're looking forward to that event. And I also wanted to tell you a little bit about new staff. I've had some staffing changes, first time in a while. So Jordan Miles, who most of you know, is now gone and happy in Washington, D.C. And so I hired Jeffrey Engel to take his place. Jeff had 17 years with the Boy Scouts of America as a district supervisor, I guess you would say, and he has just been amazing. It was really amazing to me, the similarities, I guess because we're both nonprofits, but Jeff has walked into the role and is doing an amazing job, so we're very excited about that. We also hired Lucy Claus as a Human Resources Director. We have never had a separate Human Resources Director. I really didn't understand how important that was. She has made an amazing difference in the agency for the staff, because they have someone to go to assist them personally with things they don't want to talk to me about or some other person in the office, but she's strictly HR and it's all confidential, and it's been wonderful. In addition, she's been helping us with so many other programs. I just can't say enough. Some of you may know Lucy as very involved with the Christmas Mother in Cumberland County, if that rings a bell for anyone. And then finally, our ombudsman, after 5 years, retired, and I went looking for a new one, and I found Jennifer Wall. And little known fact, her grandmother had the first licensed nursing home in the state of Virginia. So Jennifer's history goes all the way back to that. And she was an ideal person to take this role. The ombudsman is the patient advocate for anyone in long-term care. And Jennifer has just hit the ground running like crazy. The amount of work she has done has amazed me, and this is a part-time position, by the way, mainly because funding from the Older Americans Act only allows for part-time at this point in time. And so that's our new staffing, which is just, I think the agency right now is in the best position I have ever seen it in, with the strength of the staff, the quality of the staff, and our ability now to make bigger things happen. So very pleased with that. We are working on a grant that I expect we will get for $100,000. This is also, we have done SNAP grants in the past. We have applied for the $50,000 grant and gotten that several times, and I suggested we go for the gold this time and go for $100,000. That helps us help the social services departments, because we're filling out those SNAP applications to help them, because they just can't process them all. And sometimes some of our clients don't know they should be getting it. So we make sure they're aware and that we can help them, and we will get those forms filled out and submit them for them. Also, I have told you all before, some of you I'm sure will recall, my focus has always been not to just ask for money, but to figure out how to make money as an agency, which is a little hard sometimes with a nonprofit. But we started a line of business a few years ago working to do health assessments for United Healthcare, where we get paid to do their assessments. And that money, any profit we make from that, we're able to use at the agency for things that we do not have money for. You know, government funding is in silos. This one you can use for this one for that, this one for the other, but you cannot use it for anything in between. So I needed a source of money, and that has been very successful. And that has led to, while I was at the U.S. Aging Conference in Tampa, I had some meetings, and I have just received, we've been negotiating, received a contract with another company to provide that service nationwide if I want to, which means I will be hiring more staff and probably expanding. But I just want you to know those are the kinds of things I'm looking for to make the agency not totally self-sufficient, because we can't be. We rely on government funding for so many programs, but to provide us with the funding to take care of problems that there is no money for. And sometimes it's as simple as we don't have funding to, if somebody's had no water for 6 months, and now I know that the health department's going to help with that too, but we've been putting in wells for the last couple of years, well pumps, not the well, fixing the furnace, some of these things that are necessities in the winter and, you know, or in the heat, or just, you know, whatever, we're able to take care of that. And things like tinning the house for bed bugs, $3,000. It happens. I can't put an aide in the home when there's a major bed bug infestation. I can't do that to my staff. And it's hard to provide services when you have that kind of problem, not to mention the health impact. And I think I had mentioned before, you know, we've had multiple cases, but we had one with a couple in their 80s, and they were eaten alive. I mean, they were pitiful. The exterminator said he had never seen a case so bad. But those are the kinds of things we do with the money that we're able to raise from fundraising or from a business line. So I think that will help us significantly just with our growth and being able to provide more services on our own. We have the non-emergency medical transportation company. Started that about 5 years ago, I think. We got one vehicle. We thought that would be great for a little while. We were booked out months in advance. Within 3 months, we were booked out 3 months in advance. Then we got a second. Then we got a third. We just got a fourth a few months ago. I want you to know we're still booked out at least 2 months in advance right now. So I always said we need 7. We need 1 for every county, trying to get there. But again, this is a line, we have no government funding for the non-emergency medical transportation. We write grants for every bit of it, raise money for every bit of it, and the health department has assisted us with that program as well. It is extremely important. We have carried heart transplant patients back and forth to the doctor. We've helped people get their vision restored. We have people, if they don't get to their doctor's appointment, they don't get their prescriptions. And you know what happens when they don't get their prescriptions? They have heart attacks, thyroid storms, blood pressure out of control. Then they have to call the rescue squad, or the fire department's called to help get them out of the floor. All of these other complications that cost money to all the other organizations in our community, and often involves the police. So if we can keep them at the doctor's office, get their medications, make sure they're taken care of, a whole lot of that is eliminated. So that is one of my favorite programs, and your support through the Board of Supervisors helps fund that program as well. Senior population continues to grow. I think you're probably all well aware of that. Still talking about the silver tsunami. It is the fastest growing population in the United States. More of us will be old than there will be young in a few years, okay? So I always look at the agency like, you know, I'm getting older. I now qualify for services. I want to make sure that agency can take care of me when I need help. And hopefully all of you do as well. It is very, very important. So we have to continue to grow to take care of the growing senior population. So finally, I want to end with a couple of events coming up. We have, I already told you about the Triad meeting Thursday. We have the Duck Derby, one of our major fundraisers coming up, where we drop a few thousand ducks into the river and chase them down. But hopefully, and then the town of Farmville is so wonderful about helping us with that and trimming the grass over there by the water and all. But that is coming up right before the Heart of Virginia Festival on Friday night. And we reached out because the JCs were no longer doing the Friday night event. We reached out to the Downtown Farmville Partnership and said, can you please work with us and help us? Because how are we going to have a duck race with nobody out there? It just didn't sound very good. So we reached out to them, and they jumped in full force and they're planning everything. We're going to have a great event that Friday night, so I hope people will come down for that and for the duck race. And we have ducks available, and we have tickets available if anybody would like to come by the office and grab some. And then the other thing I just want to mention, because it's coming up, is our 50th anniversary. It's going to be a couple of years from now, but I'm excited about that and let you know this agency in a couple of years will have been here for 50 years. And I think maybe for a long time, didn't do everything that could have been done, and people weren't aware of the services, but I hope that today, most people in our region are aware of Piedmont Senior Resources and the services we can provide. Any questions?
Great presentation.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Oh, yeah.
Who's gonna present? You?
I think Cheryl, you're going to present for the school budget public hearing?
No problem.
A little jumping around.
Find my tab for that.
Page 83.
Thank you. As the board is aware, the Prince Edward County Public Schools is requesting appropriation of a total of $1,045,095.28 of carryover and new state funds, and $1,268,635.11 of carryover CARES Act funds for the 2024-2025 school year. Prior to the expenditure and in accordance with 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia, the board will hold a public hearing to increase the FY25 county and school budgets, accepting the distribution of funds and appropriate the funding after the audit process has been completed for the FY24 to the FY25 county and school budgets. I've attached a copy of the school's request for the appropriation of the additional funds that represent the plan of expenditures. And I've given you the public hearing notice and the school letters.
Sarah, has anybody signed up?
At this time, we'll open the public hearing.
No one signed up.
No one signed up. Is it anyone online?
We didn't have anybody online.
And is there anyone in the audience who cares to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
So we have a recommendation for the board, which is to request the increase to the FY25 county budget and the FY25 school budget by $1,045,095.28 of carryover and new state funds, and $1,268,635.11 of carryover CARES Act funds, and appropriate the same funds pending the completion of FY24 county audit.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Board of Supervisors table action on the budget supplement request pending the completion of the FY24 audit in accordance with staff recommendation.
Second.
All right, has been motioned and second. Any discussion? Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Justine, you'll speak about the remote area medical event, and Dr. Almond.
Thank you again for giving me an opportunity to speak to you for a few moments. So the remote area medical event is designed for areas that are underserved medically, which we are. And the event we have scheduled is March 28th to 30th of next year. We are working on a multitude of issues with this because it's a very large event. I want you to understand these events draw hundreds to sometimes thousands of people. So because this is the first one ever in this region, we don't really know how many people will come. But because it's the first one, I expect to have a pretty good turnout, don't you, Dr. Allman? I think so.
Probably around 500.
Okay. So we are responsible for housing and feeding some of the RAM workers that are coming from out of town. And then, of course, we have set up costs and expenses. This is being held in Cumberland at the school. It was the best location we were able to find to fit with the dates that we were able to do it with RAM. We had they had restrictions, we had restrictions, so that's what we were trying to do. So the expectation, based on what we understand from budgeting for this event, is that we will need $36,000 to $37,000 to host this event. I personally, because what I do at PSR, this event will provide medical care for people who cannot afford it. This is a lot of the working poor, okay? It's, hopefully we're gonna have dental, vision. We don't know right now what all services will be there, but that's typically what we have there. We have local doctors who will be volunteering as well as doctors coming from elsewhere with the RAM people and program. So what we are doing right now is asking the counties to commit to providing us with $2,500 to help us towards this $36,000, $37,000. And we are hoping that you will understand the importance of this event and what it will mean to people in this region. So, Dr. Allman, you have anything you want to add to that?
That's it. I mean, coming out of the pandemic, we have a lot of people who missed out on necessary medical care, and this is a way to work with our healthcare system to close that gap and get them back into the care that they need and deserve. And so we're launching this. It is, Justine said, first time in the region.
Thanks to Dr. Allman. It's really amazing.
We're organizing this. It's separate from the health department, separate from our entities, and we're working as a community health group. You're seeing 2 of the 4 people who are compromised of the community host group. The other 2 agencies are SVCC, School of Nursing, and Longwood Department of Nursing. So we're working in conjunction together to make this a reality.
So anybody is eligible, like, as far as geographic
Yep.
restrictions?
Yes, yes.
If you can drive there, you can go there.
If you can drive there, you can go there. So we do see an influx, I mean, why the high numbers sometimes, beyond what would be necessary even for our region. People start coming Friday night at midnight when the lots open, and they stay all day until
Spend
they
the
get their
night
care.
out there. Yeah, it's these people are, you're pretty desperate when you're going to drive somewhere and spend the night to get in line.
But already we have students from Duke, VCU, UVA, who have committed to coming down and serving our community. Obviously Longwood, Hampton, Sydney, SVCC, we hope to involve our public schools. So, in fact, Cumberland Public Schools have volunteered to provide some of the food and food service through their VOTEC schools and the career training. So we're really trying to use our community resources to make sure that they know that we have gifts to offer as well.
And I believe, and my understanding is that once they come, they're seen at this event. If they require follow-up care, we do have to make sure that they are able to get that follow-up care. So it's not a one-stop, we see them and then a good luck after that. They will be taken care of for the follow-up care that is necessary.
I don't know if you remember, there was a 60 Minutes episode. I believe it aired 3 times. My cousin's father was one of the doctors in the episode out in the coal fields of Virginia.
Yeah, they're common.
He was the doctor that drove the pulmonary care 18-wheeler or whatever. He was a pulmonologist. Said that learning to get licensed on an 18-wheeler was harder than medical school to him. But they came back and followed up with some of the patients, and it was about lack of Medicaid expansion and how these people fell in this hole where they couldn't qualify for anything,
Because they were.
It drew crowds, huge crowds, people sleeping in the parking lot and everything to be seen. And, they revisited, and some of the patients had already passed away, and some of them had done beautifully, and it was very touching. Featured 2 ladies that were the nurse practitioners, and then my cousin's father was in there quite a bit.
Great.
But that was that hit hard, as far as.
So you know how
many-
meaningful it is.
How many people, who are employed too, and, trying to do their best, don't have access.
They're employed and probably don't have full health insurance. A lot of jobs don't provide health insurance, or they're employed part-time, but they don't qualify for Medicaid because they make too much money. There are all these people that fall in that hole.
Yeah.
And one thing goes wrong, one medical issue can ruin your life. So I hope you guys will consider this. Yes, ma'am.
I'm pretty sure it was pre-COVID. Emporia used to have something.
Yes.
On like the fairgrounds there.
That was a
And-
RAM event. Yes.
Okay,
still
and
continue
people
to have.
lined up sometimes 2 to 3 days ahead, parked on the side of the road, waiting to get in. And they even had buses and vans that carried a bunch of people to go there to get medical health service. So it is a very valuable service.
Yes, they've been doing it long enough that everyone knows, and they've really got it down. But as we said, this is our first, but hopefully not our last.
It can be a little cool in March, sitting on the side of the road.
Well, hopefully they'll be in their cars until, until they really have to line up. But anyhow,
Will the goal be that everyone be seen?
yes, yes.
Yeah, they have it down to a science, so we, we see everyone that comes into the lot and is present. They all get a number, they get triaged, and then are seen.
If this is something the board is interested in supporting, we do carry a $5,000 contingency in our donation line. So there is funding there if that's what you want to do.
I would move that we support this to the level of $2,500.
And I will second.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Emmer?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum? Patty
Yes.
Cooper Jones, very
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Great work.
Thanks for your effort.
Yes. Okay. Ms. Sarah?
Attached for the board's consideration are 2 event permit applications. The first is the Appomattox Young Farmers are doing their annual truck and tractor pull on August 31st, 2024 at the 5 County Fairgrounds. And the second is the 5 County Fair Association is requesting to hold the 2024 5 County Fair at the fairgrounds on September 24th through the 28th.
I recommend we approve both.
So second, I'll second that.
Has been motioned and properly second. Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
And item number 15 on page 99, we are asking the board to appoint Caitlin Moore to the position of kennel attendant, deputy animal control officer trainee effective August the 15th. This will facilitate, she in fact started work for the county several weeks ago, but this will facilitate her field training until she is able to attend the Animal Control Academy. Her appointment will enable her to actually issue summons while she's working with Adam and Ariel.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
So we have the FAP Assessment and Planning Team appointment. As the board may be aware, we have Section 2.2, 5207 of the Code of Virginia, which requires the CPMT to establish and appoint one or more FAP teams as the needs of the community require and list the required representative of each FAP. It says the FAP shall include the following community agencies, including the Community Services Board, the Juvenile Court Services Unit, the Department of Social Services, the School Division, a parent representative, and at the discretion, excuse me, of the CPMT, a representative of a private organization or association of providers for children's or family services and other public agencies. A couple months ago, I came to you and asked you for an appointment for a parent rep. She was at the Rivermont Schools, and she is now recently the special education director for the schools here in Prince Edward County. So she left, and now she's on a CPMT team, excuse me, as the school representative there. So we have received an application for the parent representative for the FAPT. It would be Amy Rosden, and she is a valuable member of the community and has served on several FAP teams in the past.
Rostan, yeah.
Rostan, you know her?
Yes.
I haven't even met her, actually. I only got her application and talked to her on email. But she seemed like a very nice lady, and she was highly recommended by Kim Allen. She has extensive knowledge of the issues present in children and the families to the FAP team serves, and is currently connected to the Medicaid program, which will be an asset to the team as the team navigates the services and funding sources available for youth and families of Prince Edward County. She meets all the requirements to serve as the parent rep and will provide a wealth of knowledge and support to families requiring services with the CSA of Prince Edward County. We would like the appointment to be effective immediately and will expire on June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Next item is item 17A for finance for PECPS committed funds appropriation. We've received an invoice from Mosley Architects for $23,385.14 for the renovations to the Prince Edward County Elementary School. The capital fund committed fund available balance is currently $1,378,362.93. The board is asked to transfer $23,385.14.
233,000.
Sorry.
Just a little higher.
I was getting ready to say yes.
Yes.
23 if you want.
Sorry. It's all right. Skipped a 3 in there. From the PECPS capital improvement committed funds to the school CIP line within the general fund to cover these expenses.
So moved. Second. Pay them bills, Madam
Moved
Chair.
in second. Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Moving on, this is for FY25 PECPS committed funds appropriation. We've received an invoice from Mosley Architects in the amount of $260,815, excuse me, and 46 cents for the elementary school renovation. The capital improvement committed fund available balance is $1,378,362.93. The board is asked to transfer $260,815.46 from the PECPS capital improvement committed funds to the school CIP line within the general fund to cover these expenses.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved in second. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
And next is the appropriation for the IDA Tobacco Commission Grant Number 3961. On February 8th, 2022, the board approved submitting a grant proposal to the Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission for the Heartland Innovative Technology Park Water Tank. This TRRC reimbursement grant totaling $530,000 $100 was awarded in FY '23 and appropriated in FY '24. A balance of $211,800 remains to be carried over to fiscal year '25. These expenditures will be incurred by the Industrial Development Authority. Therefore, we ask the board to approve and appropriate as follows in order for the IDA to recoup the remaining funds expended.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones? Yes.
And last item for me is the Yakutak lease renewal addendum. The lease agreement between Prince Edward County and Yakutak LLC expired on July 31st, 2024. The lease contains an option to renew for an additional 5 years, beginning August 1st, 2024, and running until July 31st, 2029. The lease amount has been increased by the previous year's average federal consumer price index, not to exceed 5%, for a total of $140,647 per year for the next 2 years. The rental amount for the remaining 3 years will be recalculated based on the previous year's CPI. The increase will not exceed 5% annually. The board is asked to approve the 5-year lease renewal between Prince Edward County and Yakutak LLC and authorize the county administrator to execute the documents.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our county attorney's report?
That's gonna leave about 900,000 in after we,
The schools?
yes, it's good, thereabout.
And at some point, we can decide, do we want to get reimbursed from the bond or not? I think it really depends on what the bids come in at
Right.
and where we are financially.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening, Terry.
It always seems like it's a very, very busy month, and the month seems to just fly by. I've been busy this month with, we've been working on a electrical easement that we also had involved a water and sewer easement. It was approved by the board last month, and we finally ironed that out and got that recorded. I was available for the recount for Bob Good, but they didn't actually end up calling me. But anyway, they just had me on standby in case they had any difficulty, but I didn't think they ended up having any problem. Worked with the sheriff's office in reference to a settlement letter regarding a pet owner over a loss of a pet. Anyway, just worked out that agreement for the sheriff. Animal control, I think we had 2 cases. One was a recheck, ended up, the person had moved and relocated, and the other one dealing with a dangerous dog. Anyway, we also had a meeting with Nottaway County and Prince Edward about the recent survey and the line. It was a very productive meeting, and anyway, felt like it was very positive. And of course, I have to wrap up the meeting, the month report with an unclaimed body. The bodies seem to know when I'm getting ready to go out of town, and they showed up. But anyway, we got that taken care of with the sheriff's department. Anyway, very active with IDA and agreements there and things coming down the pike. But anyway, anybody have any questions, concerns this month? All right, thank y'all very, thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Stanley?
Madam Chair, members of the board, a few items. First, I'm pleased to report that the county was successful in its application for funding for the radio system upgrade. Last week, we were awarded a grant in the amount of $990,761. It will be applied directly to the county's share of $4.904 million of the radio system project, as we were picking up 100% of the fire and EMS radios and antenna work. We still have a COPS and dispatch grants that are out, as well as a direct federal appropriation that we've requested that would be split among all the agencies for the radio system project. But The bottom line is that 990,000 will decrease the amount we got to come out of pocket annually for 15 years. So thanks to Trey for his efforts in getting that grant put in and being successful. We also got word this week that Prince Edward, on behalf of the region, has received a grant for broadband affordable adoption planning grant to ensure that citizens in the area can access this life-changing enhancement. Using the funding, the project worked through the CRC. And David, you probably have heard a little bit about this, but basically will help to assure that affordable, reliable, high-speed internet access across the 7-county region will benefit all the constituents in the area. We're the lead locality and we'll be the fiscal agent for the money, but it's basically it's a 100% grant coming through from the state. As I previously reported in one of my weekly reports, VDOT has a Ready, Set, Go grant that we've been awarded to work with VDOT to evaluate the potential for pedestrian access along Route 628, tying the 3 county schools with the Poplar Forest apartment complex at the back. I don't know if you've ever walked out there, but you can see where the kids have been walking in the grass on the side of the road, and you're walking in the mud and snow and everything else. But the program will take a look at the potential for building a sidewalk along that section to connect it with the schools. Got word this week that FEMA has approved the county's hazard mitigation plan. The plan addresses the required elements, including planning process, risk assessment, hazard identification, mitigation strategy, maintenance and implementation and adoption. With approval of the plan, we can continue to be eligible for hazard mitigation funding and flood mitigation assistance. And thanks to the CRC staff again, who helped get that plan submitted and get that approved. County staff will be putting out an RFP for timber cruising services to assist with assessing timber on several county-owned sites. If you know of anyone in that business, please forward them to Sarah. Construction on the Harbor Freight site is taking off in earnest. They pretty much had their pad close to being ready. And it's exciting to see this week the Wawa, the actual back wall of the building is coming out of the ground. So a lot of exciting things happening in Prince Edward, and hopefully the next few months we'll see some of these start to kind of wrap up. So happy to answer any questions.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, the date of the November board meeting.
So, the board meeting falls this year, again, on the 12th, which some of us will be at VACO conference at the Homestead. Typically, the board has moved it to the 14th. I think you had a conflict last year, Harrison, but
I think I'm good this year.
you're good this year? The staff recommendation would be moved from Tuesday to Thursday night, but happy with whatever the board wants to.
We do have, sometimes we don't have that week between VACO and Thanksgiving, but we do this year. So you could always move it to the following Tuesday.
But we got to move the plan commission meeting if that's the case.
If there is one.
Yep. So whatever the pleasure of the board is.
Do it on the, what do you say, do it on the 5th?
See, I'd rather do it
That's
before
election
before
day.
you go to,
That's
election day.
Or you could do the 7th,
7th.
be the Thursday between election day and VACO.
We'd have to move the board pack, because we'd be closed the Tuesday of election day, so we'd have to move the board pack an entire week back.
I gotta thank you.
What's wrong with it?
It just means that the amount of business that you'll have from the October board meeting to the November board meeting could be smaller, and that means more will be pushed to December.
Whatever your pleasure is, just let us know.
I like doing it before you go to,
So the 7th.
yeah, that's my preference.
Works for me.
Don't matter to me.
Okay,
No, it's not that Saturday. I'm good to go.
You gonna be in the country?
we get a
Cam?
motion,
Yeah, I'm fine with the 7th.
okay?
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and properly second. All in favor?
Think I'll get thrown out by then?
That's right. Maybe.
Traveling.
Mr. Gillum,
7th is fine, yes.
Dr. Pride,
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Emmett? Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Jones and Patty Cooper Jones, yes. So the November meeting will be November the 7th. Okay,
I think we're down to number 25 on the table pack, Madam Chair.
okay.
Yes, Sarah.
There are two sets of appointments. On page 173 is a list of the the citizen volunteer appointments that will expire December 31st of this year. So all of these positions would conceivably be available. I believe, it's my understanding that Bernetta Watkins is not eligible for reappointment. I think she has served her second term on Crossroads. So that's one position that we will have an absolute vacancy on. I believe that Mr. Womack, Mr. Townsend, and all of the members of the Tourism Council would be eligible for reappointment should they choose to reapply. So with that, we're just asking the board to authorize advertising the positions.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
I have one question.
Okay.
Wasn't it when one of the planning commission members' time was up, they were gonna do away with one?
I'm going to defer your question to Mr. Stanley, because I don't know the planning commission as well.
Refresh my memory.
That's what we had said we were gonna do.
But was it this position? I don't think it was this position.
No,
So,
Because it's my lead district.
right, it won't be, it's not,
Was Jerry's?
My district.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. I couldn't remember.
Okay,
Which
Mr.
one was it?
Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emmett?
yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
so does this position need to be advertised
Yeah.
as a lead district? Okay.
Wait.
No.
No.
No,
No.
No.
As,
We-
as I, it won't be,
We'll go back and pull that back out and double check.
It
but I
was,
think
it's not
this is not
specifically
the
district, but
Correct.
the seat is for, so all districts are represented if you got a
if you have a
qualified.
qualified person.
Right.
Okay,
So it's just a vacancy really, but
okay.
the folks would be at lead district primarily. I got a qualified applicant.
Okay.
You coming on, Jerry?
On page 175, so by the end of the year, Wampler Eanes will complete the reassessment of real property in Prince Edward County. And beginning in January of 2025, the Board of Equalization will convene to hear appeals. So the fall prior to the year when the reassessment becomes effective, the Board of Supervisors makes recommendations to the Circuit Court for the membership of the Board of Equalization. Historically, Prince Edward County has had a 5-member board. And last time, which would have been in 2021, the county's Board of Equalization members were Russell Dove, Jimmy Garnett, Marshall Thaxton, Bob Timmons, and Cheryl Worley. I know some of those members have served multiple terms. So this board did an outstanding job for the county, and staff would highly recommend that the Board of Supervisors consider these individuals for reappointment. And with the board's consent, staff can contact these individuals and see if they are willing to continue to serve. If not, vacancies would be filled based on the requirements of the Code of Virginia, and staff could bring names, additional names back to the board. I'm going to say at your September, October meeting for you to consider to make the recommendations. This is probably one of the, I'm going to say, toughest and most involved citizen volunteer appointments that the Board of Supervisors makes. And the members of the Board of Equalization spend many hours working with the taxpayers of the county on the concerns of the values of their property. So we don't typically follow the routine citizen volunteer appointment process because there are some statutory requirements in terms of the makeup of the Board of Equalization. And we, try and make sure that the individuals would have the background, to be very involved in the valuation of properties in the county. So with that, the recommendation is for the board to ask staff to contact the former Board of Equalization members and report back to the Board of Supervisors with a slate of candidates qualified to hold office.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pryor?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Thank you.
Say, Sarah, don't go anywhere.
So before I sit down, I'm next.
I guess it was maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we met with some citizens that lived on Hampton Lane. They were concerned about the road dedication there. We had first gotten a deed of dedication and easement, but it was unclear about the county's role, whether there was some expectation as far as the county bringing it up to state standards or helping as far as getting it paved in the future. So we went back to the drawing board, and we've now got language in here now that we feel comfortable with. So it's a deed of dedication easement from Kim and Sandy Yates to the county, conveying an 80-foot public right-of-way from State Route 658, which is the Five Forks Road, to the existing dedicated right-of-way of Hampton Lane, which is a private subdivision road. The board's acceptance and approval of the deed of dedication does not obligate the county to make improvements, maintain, or otherwise contribute to the cost of bringing the road up to state standards. We have a copy of the deed of dedication, also the plat that shows that going across their property. Any questions or concerns?
Sure, just clarification. What does that really mean?
Well,
I mean, the county quote unquote owns that 80-foot right away now, since it's conveyed to us?
it's conveyed to the county.
Once you accept it and it's recorded, it becomes county. And all subdivision plats, when they're recorded, they're dedicated to the county before VDOT will take them over as part of the state system. We just wanted to make sure the language was in there, that there was no expectation on the part of the folks that live in that subdivision that the Board of Supervisors was going to fund the improvements. There is a VDOT program where they could provide the match that we could apply for to help them get it in the state system, but we just want to make sure that there was no expectation that the county was going to write the check on its own.
And David, when the subdivision was first developed, and for the members of the board who have tenure or seniority, you have heard discussion of Hampton Lane for a decade or more. So this section of right-of-way that's included in this deed was private right-of-way, but it precluded the residents of Hampton Lane from ever being able to bring their street up to state standards and have the VDOT take it over, because there wasn't public right-of-way all the way to Five Forks. So this was the first hurdle for these residents to be able to actually, be on the path of hoping that they would have, a subdivision street that could be assumed by VDOT at some point. So this is good progress for that neighborhood.
this is purely clarification though, but once the county accepts that, those people don't pay taxes on it anymore, is that correct?
It is so the Yates will, that right of way will no longer correct. They won't pay tax. It will not be part of their property.
I'm not sure about that.
It will be a dedicated right of way. This is,
So?
yeah, this is a dedicated right of way, so it's,
I'm,
yeah.
it's what I thought, but I wanted to just.
It's like any other road
because
right
that's
away at
not-
that point.
That's not true with state. With the state right away. The state right away that comes through the middle of my property, I still pay taxes on both sides of it.
If you have
and underneath it.
if you have a 30-foot prescriptive easement, you own to the 15 feet to the center of
That
that
is
prescriptive
correct.
easement. Most newer state roads have like a 50-foot dedicated right of way, correct?
Just, I just wondered if it was followed suit. No problems with it, just wondered. I guess you need a motion to accept it. I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second.
It has been motioned and second. Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The Properties Committee, chaired by Supervisor Emmert, with Supervisor Townsend and Supervisor Jenkins, met this afternoon at 5. They had a very long agenda and heard from our Director of General Services and Solid Waste General Manager about a number of projects that are going on. And the committee had 2 recommendations to bring to the Board of Supervisors. The first being that they recommend to the board to authorize the General Services Department to purchase a Kubota cab tractor with loader, claw, grapple, feel free to, if I'm getting that wrong, for $40,487.01, which is the state contract price.
Less the trade-in, yeah.
$18,000 for trade-in of our current Kubota tractor, which I learned today was a hand-me-down that General Services got from the landfill, which Mr. Jones said had already been taken apart twice and has 953 hours on it. So, so that is the first recommendation from the Properties Committee to the Board of Supervisors, is to approve the purchase of the new cab tractor for $40,487.01.
Just so that the board knows, there is money in that fund to cover it, so it's not, of course it costs, but it's not like it has to come out of something.
I move we accept the recommendation.
What model of tractor?
I'll second that.
What model is the tractor?
7040 or 7060, I can't remember.
7040 is the old one.
74 is the old one, 76 is the new one.
Any other questions?
Got the bid right here.
It has been motioned and properly second. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Thank you. And the second recommendation is the Properties Committee recommends that the Board of Supervisors accept the bid from Dusty Ducks for the cleaning of the interior supply and return air ducts on all 4 floors of the Prince Edward County Courthouse for an amount totaling $84,283.50.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Dr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
And Patty Cooper Jones, yes.
Just to give the board a little information on that, we're gonna have to sometime in the near future, do something with the air handlers and such. And every recommendation that we've gotten was that it needs to be cleaned before they do any of that, because if they, a lot of electronics and everything else, it would give trouble and whatever else, and that seems to be the problem, so that's, it's kind of a health issue thing also, that if there's ever a problem, they can say they had it cleaned. If there's a problem now, we're kind of at fault for not doing our part, so.
You gotta look after your house.
That's right, 30, and it's coming right up on 30 years, it's, so.
You gotta look after your house.
But I think that project will be going on the CIP,
It's-
so that we
No, that's the
That's
that's the handler and everything else.
handler, the air handler,
Yeah,
yeah.
electronics. That's right,
Yeah, and
electronics and
electronic.
everything else, which will be CIP, which will be spread out over time.
Yeah.
One more thing, one of the reasons why we went with this particular company too is that they can do everything from inside, whereas the other company, we were gonna have to have the sheriff or someone to be at the door the whole time they were working, because they had to come in and out, and they had to run lines out, and part of the stuff had to go outside. And they were a little higher, but by the time we had to figure anyone on overtime or anything else, it actually was cheaper. So if you see where we kind of weighed that, you might say, well, that's somewhat higher, but in the long run, it was cheaper and safer not to have someone at the door 24 hours a day, so to speak. That kind of gives you an explanation as to who, what, and why. I'm done, Patty, sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, Board, we received a card from Ms. Carol Stiff. It says a great big thanks to all of you. And it says, Board of Supervisors, I really appreciate the opportunity to serve on the DSS Board. You are so very nice. Sincerely, Carol R. Stiff. And I don't know what it is, but we got a surprise in the bag. So she told me to make sure that I bring it to this board meeting and share whatever it is in here.
I hereby request my share of what.
I second that.
All right.
I wanna see it first.
That's right.
So let's, if I can get it open.
Couldn't none of us bring our pocket knife in, cut
That's
the
it.
bags, everybody have to wait and table this for a while.
All right, so now we're gonna see
She
what
has
the
a track
treat
record of
is.
excellence
Woo,
in this
look
area.
at the goodies. It is a basket full of goodies. So she wanted me to make sure that we share it with everybody. So we're gonna start passing it around. So take what you prefer.
Tell her thank you for the.
I certainly will.
We're thankful, she's thankful.
You need a motion to recess?
Yes, we do.
To the 29th.
Thursday, August 29th.
August 29th, it's motion.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion to recess.
Second.
Second.